otherwise I would cry. Last night, I felt inspired when I got home from my book club to write a special piece about my mom and her legacy and what she taught me about maintaining peace in the middle of chaos when I had toddlers. And I thought I had done a really nice job writing it. I had some examples I wanted to use. I had some things that I wanted to highlight about, that time of my life of chasing toddlers around and thinking that my life was never going to be the same because I was never going to get a moment to myself, and it was still going to be crazy and chaotic. And I went to post it, and Facebook said did not post. So I went back to my to the tab thinking, okay, well then they saved, Facebook must have saved it as a draft. Nope, it wasn't there either. And the irony was that I was using the quote that peace is not the absence of hard work or chaos or conflict, but it's the ability to face those things and be calm in your mind and be peaceful in your mind. And so then it just seemed natural to make the quick post that I ended up making, which was, all right, so what I'd really like to do is throw my phone against the wall, because that was 30 minutes of my creative writing that I can't get back. And the irony is that I was going to post about how to remain calm and peaceful in the midst of upset and disappointment. So no matter what age I am, no matter what age my kids are, I continue to find strategies and tools that help me maintain the peace within, because at no time in my life, what I'm learning is there going to be complete peace and harmony and joy without its antithesis, right? Without something to kind of push against it. So let me go ahead and share my screen so that we can get into this topic. Maybe some of you can relate. You've had similar circumstances where you have felt pushed and pulled from all sides, and maintaining peace may be difficult for you as well. So hopefully there are some helpful pieces that we can tackle together. So first, to know about me, for those of you I haven't met yet, which I know quite a few of you probably. That's my goal, is to connect with as many women as possible and pour into their lives. I was trained as a teacher and worked in that field for 10 years off and on, around my kids being little, around my divorce, around being a single mom, around starting my own business with Young Living, getting trained as a spiritual director, also presenting locally and nationally. And then in 2020, I remarried Jerry, and that brought 2 more teenagers into our mix. Now we have a 20-year-old, 19, 18, and Liam will be 17 in July. But what came as a surprise and has thrown me off the most out of that crazy story is that my mom died in November of 2022, and that was completely unexpected. My brothers and I were sharing messages back and forth today. I think the reason it's been so profound to revisit her loss this season is that her diagnosis was 16 months before she passed, and we are now 16 months after she has passed. And it's just amazing to me how short one period of time felt and how long this other period of time has felt. So part of the reason I'm teaching monthly topic classes like this one is because I need the reminders, the guidance, the resources, and I want to keep putting those in my own life. And so while I'm reclaiming some of that true peace or inner wisdom or connection to God, I want to share with others. A little disclaimer, when I do work with groups, I'm always quick to offer that I want to make sure the people listening are in safe spaces. So if you are an adult, but you are reporting a vulnerable adult, or you're a victim of abuse, and I hear about that or I learn about that, then I do need to report what I hear. So keep that in mind as you listen. If you're somebody who struggles with mental illness and some of these topics bring up difficult memories for you or trauma, please seek professional help. Our goal in creating educational series like this one is to open our minds and our spaces to other ideas, but it doesn't always mean that that we're going to have the solution that would be best for you. I'm also going to talk about Young Living at the end of our presentation. And again, a lot of people have found value in using Young Living essential oils to support their body, mind, and spirit wellness. And as a result, I use them, I talk about them, I incorporate them into my healing and daily practices as well. So I invite you to take a look at that and keep an open mind tonight. So we're going to start with the idea of chaos, right? I had a roommate in college who studied chaos theory from a mathematical standpoint. We talked a little bit about this last month when we discussed overwhelm. That's another feeling that we have when we think about our lives. Chaos can be anything from an upset in daily schedule, to a disappointment, to a feeling of loss or uncertainty. It can also be an experience where our emotions are really intense. Chaos theory in mathematics was something that couldn't be defined, right? Like she was studying chaos theory from a mathematical standpoint, where everything was logical, right? In chaos or in math, but chaos didn't fit a pattern. And so I just remember thinking that is so much like life, right? And how interesting that even the concept of math, mathing, which is not a verb, but even the science of math cannot make sense sometimes of sheer chaos. And neither can we. I sometimes equate it, and I talk about this when I teach aroma freedom or lead people through aroma freedom, that our emotions are like waves, right? They come crashing on us and at us. So sometimes chaos can be conflicting, right? It can be conflicting opinions. It can be conflicting schedules. It could be conflictual with somebody else. It can be relationship driven. It can feel like we're being tossed and turned and flipped upside down. I had an experience once where I got caught in the wave, in the rip tide, right? And I didn't know which way was up for a couple of minutes. Thankfully, I was able to find my footing and stand up in the shallow part of the beach. But crashing is kind of that. Where is your true north? Where is your center? Where is it that you find your balance again? And in that situation as well, waves and our life waves can also be consuming. And we can sometimes think of nothing else but what is like the wave that we're in, the wave that we're riding, the undertow, the current, the strength of the impact against us, right? And that was grief for me at the very beginning. There wasn't a lot I could do. It was all consuming. So I just ask you to think about how a situation in your life is presenting itself as chaos. And without getting too personal, if you want to write that in the chat, you could tell us what feels conflicting right now, what is crashing around you, and what is consuming your mental, spiritual, and even your physical time and energy. Because pinpointing what it is can really help us get a better glimpse at what to do about it. The good news is in the sheer conversation about chaos is that when we identify it, that's the first step, right? That truly is the first step to being able to change it when it's been identified. I wanted to bring up that you may not have considered, and again, depending on what you're facing in your life right now, there may be little stresses, but there also may be really big stresses and stressors. But I wanted to talk about a woman I read about in preparing for tonight, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. She was the Nobel Prize Award winner in 2009 for her work in telomeres, which is an enzyme that positively impacts our telomeres. Now, just to give you a little history, a little science, I didn't pull up a picture of our DNA, but telomeres are the sentinels of our cells, and they guard our chromosomes from damage. Just to give you an example of what they're like, on the ends of your chromosomes, they are like the plastic wrap around your shoestrings. So that helps your shoestrings go in and out of the eyelets on your shoes. That is what a telomere is at the end of your chromosomes. As our telomeres shorten, our cells age and then eventually die. So this is the end of cells of our DNA. But there is hope. Research by this winner, Dr. Blackburn, has shown that meditation may slow down the shortening of telomeres. This suggests that meditation may help us to age more gracefully and live longer, healthier lives. So again, as we get older into midlife and beyond, and you know that that is my heart of who I'm working with and who I am and talking to people like me, when we can make small tweaks in how we approach our stress at midlife and beyond, we're actually helping us ourselves create long-term habits that affect our aging. Now, some exercises that can help preserve our telomeres is not, and we've talked about this in other monthly topics, you don't have to go to the gym 3 hours a day or run a marathon every week. You actually have the opportunity to do moderate aerobic exercise, maybe 3 times a week for 45 minutes, to have as long as telomeres that are as long as marathon runners' telomeres. You can also mix things up. So making sure that you're like yesterday, I went for a hike. Today, I went for a bike ride. Tomorrow, I have yoga. So you're giving yourself plenty of opportunities to use your muscles in different ways. Many studies looking at people under severe chronic stress find their telomere shortness relates to how severely that stress is experienced. But that relationship seems particularly strong in people who are sedentary. So if you don't have a walking practice or you don't have a movement practice of any kind, you may want to revisit your schedule and see if something gentle would fit in. Even starting, I know one of the women on the call started very simply in December with walking 10 minutes. And then she would feel out of breath and go home, and then she'd walk another 10 minutes, and now she's up to walking 30 minutes a day. So keeping in mind as we are getting older and our telomeres are naturally shortening, and we have the opportunity. I did not put this slide in. I wonder what happened to it. I had this really beautiful slide I was going to show you about some things that you can do to increase your telomeres. But thinking about us getting older, thinking about us aging and aging well, and lengthening those telomeres, definitely think about how exercise, vitamin B, vitamin D, being outside in the sunshine, basic lifestyle practices can really help increase your sense of well-being and lengthen those telomeres. I had a really beautiful slide about that, and I don't have it to share with you, sorry. But the other thing, and this is where we're going to land tonight about the peace within, and we started to talk about it a little bit last month as well, is in the idea of contemplation. Now, contemplation, if you just put your hand on your heart, wherever you are, as you're sitting listening to this tonight, you put your hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, and just close your eyes gently. Contemplation is not necessarily thinking about anything in particular, but just being attuned to your breathing, your thoughts, your body's needs, how you're feeling in your skin, what you hear, tapping into your senses. I've got birds outside my window right now saying goodbye to the day. In the middle of a stressful situation, in the middle of a stressful time, just getting centered again, being contemplative is one practice that you can employ to help adjust your stress response in the moment. That hand on your chest to feel your heart beating, near where your heart is, hand on your belly where we hold a lot of our anxiety and tension, and just call our minds into our body spaces so that we can more appropriately handle what's right in front of us. Now, y'all know that I come to my spiritual direction through a Christian background. So that means that I practice Christianity. I go to church. We celebrated Easter on Sunday. We're in that season of Easter now where, we're reminded of the scriptures where people didn't believe that Jesus had risen from the dead, and he was appearing to his disciples and showing them that he was truly alive. And also, you'll also hear a couple other references today to other spiritualities that, and another master in meditation who also had something to say about creating sanctuary. But this is this is actually Thomas Merton. Sorry, I should have put his name on the slide. Thomas Merton is a modern day. He was a modern day contemplative. What that means is that there were people who understood the Bible to be very how do I explain Thomas Merton? To be very central to our story, my own story, our story as a Christian community, and the story of how God came and sent Jesus. And so Thomas Merton took a vow to understand contemplation, understand God better in his life. And he is considered the father, he's an American guy, considered the father of modern day contemplation. Now you can look up Dr. Richard Rohr and his work at the Center for Action and Contemplation out of New Mexico. And I'll give you a couple of other names as we go on in the presentation, but they're continuing the work that Thomas Merton started a long time ago, where Thomas said, contemplation is the highest expression of man's intellectual and spiritual life. It is that life itself, fully awake, fully active, fully aware that it is alive. It is spiritual wonder. It is spontaneous awe at the sacredness of life, of being. And contemplation is exactly what we did just there, putting our hand over our chest and our stomach to think about how we are awake, active, aware, alive, and standing in awe of that fact. I love the work that Oprah has done over the years of bringing soul care to the mainstream media. She has done a special. She had her soul care Sundays, right? Her soul Sundays, and then she, I don't know, markets a tea and calls it "Steep Your Soul." So one of my favorite contemplative authors is Sue Monk Kidd. Some of you may be familiar with Sue Monk Kidd. She was most famous for writing The Secret Life of Bees that became a movie. If you haven't seen that one, you definitely want to jot it down. Just a beautiful sort of allegory of life, but called The Secret Life of Bees. But my first book that I read from Sue Monk Kidd was called When the Heart Waits. And it's about her own sort of autobiographical journey of midlife. And I think I was 35 when I read it. It's probably time to read it again. But just a beautiful way. And I actually dove into some of the reading and writing last night in preparing. It's just a beautiful way that she expresses her spirituality and her religiosity through contemplation. So I'm going to show you a video now of her talking about what she does to steep her soul. Hopefully you can hear it okay.
She is the literary phenomenon whose books have sold millions of copies around the world. Best-selling author of the latest Book Club 2.0 selection, The Invention of Wings, Sue Monk Kidd. Thanks for enjoying my tea. Are you a tea drinker or coffee?
Both. I like both. I like coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Okay, very well. That's exactly what you're afternoon. Do you have a morning ritual?
I do. I take my walk outside for about 45 minutes. I walk the Gulf of Mexico where I live, along the beach. Then I come back, sit down and write.
What soothes your soul, or how do you steep your soul? What's that process for you?
Well, I can sit for a long time on the beach and just stare at the waves. I mean, that's a steeping to me. I love the rhythm of the waves that come and go, and the sort of eternal rhythm of that. I think that rhythm is inside of us. And I remember Thoreau saying that he could sit in a doorway and watch the corn stalks like all day long. And I remember when I read Walden Pond thinking, really? But I get that now as I get older, that ability to just sit at peace with oneself and with what's around you and just be. I mean, the cultivation of being has been the hardest thing in my life. You know, it fights with everything, but I'm getting there, you know, where I can just sit and let it steep.
What inspires or motivates you?
My motivation seems to come from within. It seems to be propelled by this creative urge I have to give expression to something inside of me. It's pretty fierce. That inner content that we have that wells up, the images that well up in me, they demand a kind of expression, an articulation. So that motivates me. It's to give expression to the life of my soul.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't be so afraid. It's going to be all right. There's a quote by Julian of Norwich that I love a lot. And if I could stencil it on my wall now, I probably would stencil this one. She said, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Now that sounds, you could read that as superficial, but she had something else in mind. She was talking about something very profound and I think mystical, that at the core of us, all is well, no matter what, no matter what. And that's that utter faith in who we are and in what we're about here. You know, not Sue Monk Kidd, the writer, or Sue Monk Kidd, the mother, or whatever, or all my ego cells. It's that deeper part of me talking about all shall be well. So I would tell myself that. I would say, go read Julian of Norwich and remember this always. So don't be afraid. And to wake up, to take your leaps, to become. It's okay.
And your all-time favorite quote? Would that be your all-time favorite quote?
It might be. Yeah. I'll tell you one that I did stencil on my wall. I mean, I am notorious for stenciling things on my wall. So I've done quite a few. But the one that I put in my study, not on my stairway, but on my study, was by Hildegard Bingen. And she said, I am a feather on the breath of God.
Yes.
I aspire to that.
Yes. And to be a feather on the breath of God.
Yeah.
Thanks for steeping me. That's great. Thank you.
Pretty powerful to think about being a feather in the breath of God, to think about how we can most gloriously be connected to within through contemplation, through meditation, through prayer, and those people that she referenced, Hildegard of Bingen, is a Christian mystic from the 19th century. So there are so many beautiful stories that come out when you start to work through how do I find, how do I capture, how do I bring about the peace within. So let me go back and show you the next part of our presentation. Nope. Let's go. So I can drop it down. Okay. All right. So we started here with my story about this quote. Peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. When I was a young mom, this seemed impossible. Even yesterday, when I went to write about this quote and about how meaningful it was to me and about how suffering in my grief has turned to solitude and into peace, even though it's terrible, um, was taken away from me, all my words. And I was really mad that Facebook took them all. And I wanted to throw my phone against the wall because why? Why, why did I spend 30 minutes working to prepare something that I wanted to share to have it stolen from me, right? Basically, quote unquote. Haha. But it doesn't mean that everything comes easily or that I had saved a draft or that I had written it and thought about it and worked on it. But it meant in the moment that I had to learn a lesson in the midst of the hard and still be calm in my heart. And I feel like that every day when I parent my teenagers, when I decide to exercise, when I choose my rhythm and my routines, when I talk to people on the phone, I choose peace. Um, and not just because it's easy, but because it's the right thing to do. There was a study as part of Dr. Oh my gosh, what is her name? The Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Blackburn. She found that a group of people who practiced chanting meditation for just 12 minutes a day for 8 weeks had a 43% increase in their telomeres activity. And then a study published in a journal in 2014 investigated the effects of chanting meditation on telomeres activity in a group of healthy adults. And that showed that they had a significant increase compared to the control group. The increase in telomerase activity was equivalent to about 9 years of biological age reversal. So again, if we can practice, and that's why it's called a spiritual practice, if we can practice this idea that even in the midst of our stress and our chaos, of finding places where we can be quiet and peaceful, those are things that can help us biologically reverse our age. And you see this woman here praying the rosary. And some of you may be familiar with that from your own practices, spiritual practices. But we're going to talk about some other ways that you can recite or chant or pray as we go along this. Sue Monk Kidd quoted Julian of Norwich. Julian of Norwich was also an early desert mother, they call them, desert mothers and desert fathers. The rest of the quote, she said, Jesus, it came to her in a vision. They are called, it was her awakening. And she wondered if God was really with her. She was very, very ill, and she had a near-death experience where she had 16 kind of experiences with God. And Jesus in his vision informed me of all that is needed by me and said, it was necessary that there should be sin, but all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And she finishes by saying, for there is a force of love moving through the universe that holds us fast and will never let us go. So even a prayer such as this one, repetitive, thought-provoking, knowing about who Julian of Norwich was and what she was facing, learning more about her, thinking about considering what it means to be held despite our sin in the hand of God can be really calming and very peaceful to our souls in a time of meditation and prayer. When we make ourselves unavailable from time to time and we turn off our availability, we get rid of our phone, we find a quiet place, we can turn inward to our relationship with God using the examine, practicing Lectio Divina, which is reading a part of scripture or a holy text and repeating it over and over again. You can practice meditation on photos, icons of Jesus, perhaps during the Eastertide, some ideas of what Jesus might have looked like risen. You can practice anything that allows you to sustain meditation or contemplative attention in your week. I also want to just point out that I don't think the sourdough craze is really just about the bread. I mean, yes, there's a health component, right? The ingredients are supposed to be healthier. Making your own bread at home takes out the preservatives that are put into bread that is sold at the store. People talk about changing, the grains that the impure grains that we've been baking with. This really isn't just about the physical bread. This is about the spiritual bread, the nourishment of the sourdough bread that provides for the baker, the person you share your starter with, the person you share your baked bread with, the way you form the bread, the way you have to mold the bread, knead the bread, let the bread breathe, all the things that go into making sourdough can be a prayer, right? And there are so many people in my context right now, in my community, who are all about the sourdough bread making. And I don't think it's all about the ingredients. I just don't think it's all about the actual physical bread. I really think it's about the nourishment that our spirits are longing for, that we find manifest in bread. And this is what another Christian meditation contemplative expert who was a student of Merton's said. His name is James Finley. He said, by meditation in this context, any act habitually entered into with our whole heart as a way of awakening and sustaining a more interior meditative awareness of the present moment. It could be baking bread, tending roses, taking long, slow walks to no place in particular. We might find ourselves drawn to painting or reading or writing poetry or listening to music. Perhaps we yearn to be alone, truly alone, with no addictive props or escapes. Or our practice may be that of being with that person in whose presence we awakened to what is most real and vital in our life. So perhaps it's through a spiritual director, perhaps it's through a dear friend, perhaps it's through a mentor, a Bible study leader, a pastor, somebody that you respect within your within your community. I also wanted to quote Hermann Hesse, who's the author of Siddhartha. He wrote, "Within you, there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself." This also doesn't mean that you have to create something like an altar. It can be simply a personal sanctuary. And to show you what I mean, I have mine just over here in my office in a very large basket. It takes up quite a bit of room on my bookshelf. You can see it here. I should probably take a photo of it for you. But I've put things in my sanctuary in this basket that remind me to be quiet, that I can take with me for meditation. So I have a mirror, because mirror work is really important. Seeing yourself, praying with yourself, honoring yourself, being part of your own story, but also looking for the divine that's within you, not just what you see on outward appearance, like a phone, like a selfie, right? It would be a different experience than really contemplating the beauty in which God made you. It could also be, I keep some things on hand that are little prayers. So I've got some bookmarks that I've collected over the years. Nothing complicated, right? Not books that I'm supposed to read, not texts right? Just little prayers that I've collected, quotes that I can stop and meditate on. A little quote here on a little card that says on the back, I am a miracle worker. So maybe my meditation for one day has to be about that. I have photos in here, personal photos. This is my mom and me with my kids when they were at that very young age that I was feeling really, really crazy and chaotic. Here's me surfing with my sister-in-law, right? So I just have a few little things like that that I can touch. A heart-shaped rock. This one came from Sedona. So being able to feel that in my hand and meditate on my own heart and what God is calling me forward to. These are literally little things that I've collected over time that that help me find a place of center in the midst of chaos. If I told you some of the personal things that have been going on the last couple of weeks with our teenagers, you wouldn't believe me because I show up calm when inside, with what I'm dealing with externally has been really extra challenging, including one of our kiddos needed to go for a while to a special place to get some help for her mental health. But that isn't something that we're going to share far and wide. It doesn't consume us. It doesn't define us. But it's definitely something that we're wrestling with while we're also maintaining inner peace. So some other ideas, turning on music. I have the app on my in my house, so I can ask her to play different music, right? Relaxing piano, spa. Sometimes I ask for instrumental Christian music because then I can get just melodies playing in the background. Maybe you do want to pull out your Bible and read through your Bible. Maybe you want to just write down some spiritual words and meditate on a spiritual word like risen Lord or He is risen during this Easter time. Maybe you pick some pictures of nature images or Celtic images like this one. This is a prayer to Saint Bridget. Okay, so she was Bridget of Kildare was a desert mother who was big into contemplation as well. So I have a picture of her. So maybe I learn more about her and I meditate not to her, not as a replacement, right, for Jesus, but as a sister on the way. Set a timer for yourself. If you have a limited amount of time, set a 10-minute timer and see if you can sit in peace and quiet and create that sanctuary within yourself. And also I'll remind you about journals and journal prompts. Again, like I said, journaling isn't sometimes Facebook takes your words away, but writing them in a journal can be really helpful too, just getting them out of your head and out of your heart and onto paper. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the Soul Care Kit because it has journal prompts in it. It has hands-on materials that you can use to kind of walk yourself through some of this experience that I'm talking about now. Because what I've learned is when I focus on my soul care, then all the other parts of my life fall into balance because I am centered within myself. So even if the other things go up and down, I know that my inner peace, that peace within, is solid and sacred, and I'm on firm ground. I would also just note, if you do not have the Soul Care Kit, you're in my group. It is in the resources section of Heartbeat. You can download it and print it. It is intended to be a workbook of such. If you don't have it and you are on my email list, I'll be sending it out again next week because I added a page with my favorite grief resources, just a handful of grief resources that have been really helpful to me. So then you can download it again if you're on my email list. And if you're not, let me know, reach out personally, and I will make sure you get connected and get a copy of it sent to you. All right. So the last thing we're going to end with tonight is how to listen for inner wisdom. We've been talking about this the whole time, right? Where do we need to slow down? Where do we need to take time? And we're going to use Aroma Boost to do this. So if you have your oils, lavender, frankincense, and stress away, you just need at least one of those or all three of those. If you don't have any of those, maybe try to grab a fresh citrus fruit or grab something that is fragrant from your garden, a rose, a sprig of rosemary or mint, anything that you can find that just helps sort of enliven your senses a little bit. And we're going to just get still. Yeah. Yep. I really appreciate the chat. It is a balance of work, life, and all the other roles that we play. Nikki, thanks for being open about that. Mom, Anna, trustee, daughter, still a daughter, cousin, aunt, sister, all the things. Quick reminder for those of you who've never done Aroma Boost before, this was developed by Dr. Ben Purkis, who is a clinical psychologist and also an avid Young Living leader who figured out using these oils could really help shift blocks from being places that you got stuck to places that you could break through. So consider as you head into the new month, the month of April. We always do these calls at the beginning of the month because I like to set up the theme. I like you to think about what your goals are for the month and how you're planning for things to go. What is your biggest roadblock at the moment? What would you say your biggest roadblock is? Yes, there are so many things tugging at us, right? So many different expectations, so many different voices, so many different to-do task items. But what is the biggest roadblock to your peace at the moment? What is feeling insurmountable? Go ahead and make a note of that on your journal or on a sheet of paper. Identify that situation and then name the feeling that describes how you feel about it. So is it causing you anger, sadness, fear? Locate the feeling in your body. It can be a feeling that you have, like a sensation, or how you're sitting, or where you kind of locate. Maybe you've had some achiness or pain. Maybe it's connected to this feeling and the situation. A lot of times, I love those reminders that people post about relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and breathe, right? So when I think about locating the feeling in my body, I think, what's tight right now? And then identify a negative thought that goes with the situation. I can't get out of it. I'll never be able to leave. And then once you have that selected, take a drop of each of the oils or whatever you grabbed that is fragrant. Drop it between your hands and cup your hands over your nose and mouth. I'll give a quick example if you aren't watching me. Breathe in, remembering that the sense of smell is directly connected to your amygdala, which controls your fight or flight response. So if you're feeling some of that like reactionary type emotion, this should help neutralize and actually shift your response receptor sites up there. As you breathe the oil in, think about the situation, the feeling you have about it, where the feeling is in your body, and that negative thought. let the oil do its job. Breathe in a couple more times quietly. And once you felt something shift, what insights come to mind about this particular stressor? What do you need to do next? Is there an action that you need to take in regards to the situation? Can you put a pin in it for 12 hours to give yourself a little break from it? You can just move on with your day, kind of chalking it up as a dip. Or do you need to dive into one of the previous sessions of Aroma Freedom and really start to understand and unpack what's keeping you stuck? Maybe it's the cycle that keeps happening and you wonder, when do I get off the hamster wheel? Maybe it's the definition of insanity because you just kind of keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It's not changing. What we're going to do together is create an affirmation that goes with the situation. And an action that you can take as a result. Is there somebody that you need to talk to? Is there some strategy that you need to have? Similar to what I shared earlier about what we're dealing with my stepdaughter. You know, Jerry and I don't spend every day, all day talking about it, but once a day, we kind of dive in on what can we do this week to make things better? How can we help? How can we be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right? That kind of thing. So it doesn't mean that it's not traumatic and terrible that it's happening. At the same time, how do we keep our peace and then touch into the situation? So remember, affirmations are anchored in with an oil and a power pose. The affirmation may sound like I am so happy and grateful now that we have a plan moving forward for my stepdaughter's budget. That's one thing that we've been talking about this week. It could be, I feel peace because when I speak to so-and-so, because I have somebody to share the load with. I feel happy when I take 30 minutes for myself to do this thing, whatever this thing is. And then the power pose is something that expresses the strength or the energy of the statement. So you can use a different oil than what you used the first time. I'm using transformation. Typically, we like to stand up. So I'm wearing my Hakuna Matata shirt. I felt like that went well with tonight's topic. It means no worries. Correct. Creating the peace within. Hands on hips, hands up, maybe in a worship pose, maybe in a strength pose, maybe hands on your heart, whatever seems to speak to you. And then repeat your affirmation aloud if it's about the action or if it's about your identity. Breathe the oil in. Breathe your resolve in, your determination. Breathe in this new perspective. Breathe in the courage that it's going to take to do the action. And when you feel like you've anchored in the next move, come back to your seat. Out of this, accountability is huge. That's one of the reasons I created the soul care sanctuary. So we had a care circle that we met twice a month and we can kind of check in with each other about stuff that's going on. So in our care circle on Heartbeat, in our care circle chat, we have some people that have been kind of typing in things that they've been accomplishing, what they've been doing, how they can be supported, and kind of getting back to them. So that's a built-in accountability group for those of you in the soul care sanctuary. If you're not in that group and you want to be, let me know. But if you aren't in that group, you may have, or you have a different set of accountability partners. You may want to tell them about this experience tonight. You may want to kind of help them hold you accountable. Hey, I've been missing me time. Can you make sure, can I check in with you every week and make sure that I have 30 minutes built into my calendar? Because I'm giving all of myself away and I'm not taking time for myself. I'm not setting clear enough boundaries and I'm getting exhausted from the expectations that are placed on me. Maybe you need to post it, kind of like Sue Monk Kidd said in her interview. She stenciled it on her wall. Remember when we used to do that with a lot of phrases? Maybe some of you still have those there. So maybe there's a phrase that you want to put on your wall that's really meaningful to you that helps keep you anchored. And every time you see it, you think, yes, this isn't just my life motto. This is my lifestyle choice for today. This isn't just something I aspire to do once I retire or once the kids are grown or once things have calmed down and relaxed and, are perfect again. This is how I'm embracing my life as it is now. Guys, I get teary talking about this because I wish so much that my mom was still here. And I want so badly to have shared all of these things with her physically, like present with me. And yet she's not. And I choose instead to find ways to remember her and also to remember the lessons that she taught me, which was there is no peace without conflict. There is no rest for the weary, right? You just figure out the best way to keep your telomeres short, right? Or long. You want your telomeres long through the lifestyle choices that you make. It's really like being given a string, right? Like you have this long. So what are you going to do with that dash in your life? And how are you going to live it? And what is going to define you at each and every day, each and every moment? And how can you hold on to those things? And how do you celebrate along the way as well? Of course, always allowing for grace. I remind you of this every single month because C.S. Lewis is another beautiful Christian writer who says, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And that to me is what this is all about. I cannot go back 2 years and try to reverse a terminal lung cancer diagnosis. But I can take my experience from this moment and shape it for the days and months and years to come. Remember, coming up next week is spring retreat. So some of you are going to be there with me. I'm so excited to have you there. We also have Care Circle on Monday evening. So I'll be doing that from California. I'm headed in early to spend time with my daughter. That's how I take care of my boundaries. Retreat will be then the Thursday through Sunday. Then I'll be back on the 18th on Zoom to do a 60-minute full aroma freedom session. So if you tapped into something today and you want to dive in a little bit more, definitely mark your calendar. Those of you in Soul Care Sanctuary already have that included. That's a $35 value. That's already included in your monthly subscription. And then on the 22nd will be our other Care Circle for this month as well. Remember, if you are not currently part of Soul Care Sanctuary, you want to be, to reach out. You can also be part of the Aroma Freedom events solo for $35 each month. And then if you do want to work through Aroma Freedom with me, I'm not offering full spiritual direction at this time, but I am offering solo Aroma Freedom sessions. So if you're curious to walk through that process one-on-one, let me know. We can do that via Zoom or in person if you live close. All right. And I think without further ado, youngliving.com. If you were referred here by somebody else, the oils that we talked about today are in our premium starter kit. I also highly recommend the feelings kit. This is a great one to get with loyalty rewards on your monthly order, or to collect all of your points and then redeem them for the feelings kit. Because during Aroma Freedom, we use inner child and we use release. And I always love, and a little extra valor, not to mention present time, forgiveness, and harmony are just some exquisite oil blends that just help so much with the stress and overwhelm that we feel. I take for granted, I think, after 17 years of using oil, just how impactful it is to be diffusing in my home, to be applying them to my body, to have a lifestyle that involves nutrition and supplements and things like that as well. So remember, we're elevating our journey through our purpose, our people, and our possibility, one step at a time. I'm here for you, wherever you've come from tonight and whatever you're facing in your own personal journey. I hope this gives you a little bit of insight and maybe some direction for discovering the peace within you as well. So thanks for joining. Appreciate seeing you all.